So we'll start with some basic terms of chemistry. Atom. Atoms are fundamental building blocks of chemistry. All the matter are made up of different types of atoms. Second is matter. You already know that anything that occupies space and has mass is matter, and there are three states of matter, which are solids, liquids and gases. Our next term is element. Now, element is a substance which cannot be broken down into simpler substances by any ordinary chemical method. Here are some examples of elements: hydrogen, helium, carbon, oxygen, sodium, etc. And the next one is molecule. An element can also be made when the same atoms join together to make a molecule. The example of molecule is oxygen gas. Scientists have discovered 118 kinds of atoms, which we call elements. Now you can find these elements laid out on a chart, which is called the periodic table. In periodic table, all the elements are kept according to their properties. So everything around us is made up of atoms. For example, the book, a pen, a fan, a sun, all are made up of atoms. But atom is so small, it is impossible to see with the naked eye. So we can say that everything around us is made up of invisibly small atoms. Now you must well be curious and want to know how scientists know the atoms exist. Well, to find out, we must travel back in time to ancient Greece. Meet Democritus, the man who proposed the idea of an atom. He was a Greek philosopher. He ground up different materials until he get a fine powder, which could not be divided any further. He called them atomos, or atoms, which means uncuttable or undivisible. But he didn't have any evidence to back up his claim, so many people rejected him. Then in 1808, an English chemist, John Dalton, conducted several experiments and carried out that each chemical element is made up of different atoms, and the elements are different because they are made of different atoms. For example, plastic and wood both look totally different from each other, but they both made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. The change is because these elements are put together in a different way to give a totally new material with a completely different appearance and properties. After this, in 1911, a physicist, Ernest Rutherford, discovered that atoms have tiny, dense nucleus. This means the nucleus is small, heavy region at the center of the atom, and the nucleus is just a tiny part of an atom, but it contains all the atom's mass. Now mass is the measurement of the amount of matter something contains. Now I will tell you about a compound. A compound is a substance which is made up of two or more elements which are chemically combined by a chemical reaction, and its example is sulfuric acid. and its formula is H2SO4. In this figure, you can see that it contains 2 atoms of hydrogen and it contains 1 atom of sulfur. Now you all are familiar with the all 4 basic terms of chemistry, which are atoms, elements, molecules and compounds. Let's find out what is present inside an atom. The structure of an atom. We already know that the word atom means indivisible. All the atoms in the periodic table are made from just 3 kinds of particles, which are protons, neutrons and electrons. The 2 particles, protons and neutrons, live in the center of the atom called the nucleus, and the protons carry positive electrical charge and neutron is neutral. This means it has no charge. The light particles, electrons, whiz around the outside of the nucleus. They carry a negative charge. The number of protons and electrons are equal. So atoms are electrically neutral. There are 118 different kinds of atoms, which are each the smallest part of an element. If we observe the elements like gold, carbon and oxygen, we can see that they have very different properties. They don't look or act the same. But why they are so different? Well, it comes down to what's inside their atoms. As you can see here, atoms of just 3 types of tiny particles called electrons, protons and neutrons, and each of these tiny particles does something special. It is the number of protons inside an atom that makes each element different. If you look at the periodic table, the first element, hydrogen, has 1 proton. The second element, helium, has 2 protons, and the third element, lithium, has 3 protons. This goes on all the way up to 118 elements. In every atom, protons and neutrons are about the same mass, but electrons are much lighter.